mates, and welcome to episode I don't even know anymore. What is this now? This is all part of our October month of women's wrestling. But again, a lot of these things have been recorded ahead of time, so I don't know what order they're coming out quite yet. I have had a great interview with Justine, aka Pasta Salsa, as well as a watch along with my good friend Sydney. And continuing with that trend of talking with women that I actually enjoy hanging out with in the wrestling world in real life, I am here with my friend Sarah. How are you doing tonight, Sarah?
I am doing awesome stuff.
So, quick overview, I'll say what I know about you, because I know I don't know everything. We really only see each other once or twice every other month.
I mean, well, that's what this does to people. Yeah. But what do you know about me? Let's go through the list.
You love writing fan fiction, I know that. You've done a lot of work with 3XW in Des Moines. A lot of work with the videography, I know that. And that is a thankless job, as I have learned, in indie wrestling. Willing to be the person manning the camera. It's really like the least wanted job a lot of times, but it's the most needed. And also, I know that you are still in wrestling training, I think? Or have you graduated now?
Basically, I entered the 3XW Academy at the behest of my friends in Kansas because I was actually in the professional wrestling industry from 2002 to 2005. I was actually in the OWA school back in the day. And when they closed, I had to go all the way to Lawrence, Kansas to train with Derek Stone in order to continue my career in wrestling. And I left in 2005 because it was pointed out to me that I might have some mental issues that could be kind of dangerous for other people. And then not in a crazy way, just it's like I tend to have zone outs and such. And especially with the changes to what Iowa does with their commission, because back then you couldn't do cross-gender wrestling, which is another reason I have to go to Kansas. So once the NWL in Missouri folded, my Kansas friends were like, "Dude, go back! You need to go back. There are women wrestling these days. I mean, you could totally go back." And keep in mind, I have been disabled since about 2015, so I had not been exercising at all. In fact, I had been also eating junk food. But when I did the tryouts, I had a hell of a lot of rust, but I could still actually do the maneuvers. It's just that my health wasn't at 100% to continue with the match. And through my training, especially, I kind of hit a lot of health bumps in between the weeks that I was in the school, and they basically said, it's like, yeah, you could totally be a wrestler, but it's like, you really need to work on your health first before we actually clear you. So, I'm currently in the process of that. I've lost about 10 pounds already, and a couple of pant sizes. So, I mean, it's like, that's kind of why I got put on the creative team, because, I mean, even though my ring work and health wasn't at my best fortes, my creative side and my promos were considered excellent. So they put me on the they're putting me on the mic at least as an interviewer, and they're also potentially working on also doing filming outside of the shows for like mini fillers and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to be working on the other end as well. So yay! So that's my stuff with 3XW currently. Like I have been hanging out with the boys since maybe about December of 16-ish, because that's kind of when I got back into wrestling, because I kind of been avoiding
2016, right?
Yeah, 2016, yes.
Oh, yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I've actually helped a couple of my friends with a couple of creative stuff and stuff like that, and And, I mean, I was told that my work was good, and so I kind of went on a crusade to, like, you know what, I'm going to be the Vince Russo of the Indies. And, only not repeating his mistakes, but,
yes, I'd say.
yeah, but, I mean, it's like, I mean, I've talked to all these veterans in between then and now, and being a writer in the Indies is damn near impossible unless you're the actual promoter or their relative or girlfriend or whatever, and it's like, so basically, especially when I finally talked to Booker T at Otamicon, it was like, there is no road for writers to go. I mean, it's not that they can't go anywhere, it's just that there is no education you can take. There is no real classes. I mean, people like Quackenbush and Vince Russo that, I mean, yes, they will teach you the writing aspect, especially for television and whatnot, but they don't do public teachings at all. They do not do podcasts. They have, like, personal one-on-one clinics, and that's all they have. And so I'm like, you know what? At the same time, as discouraging as this is, all I need is a damn machete. And I'll just carve my own freaking path. And you know what? It's been working.
Well, and that's the thing with a lot of the indies is that, fun fact, pulling back the curtain, just talking to people who maybe go to indie shows, is that the actual requirements for indies, the degrees, the broadcasting background, all of that, really only factors in at high up indies,
yes.
like indies that will be regularly, that, like, you know, on TV, not streaming, TV. Because I've had a lot of people, I remember when I met Molly Holly at this one-off show last year, she you know, we were talking, and I said, I'm a commentator. She asked me, oh, do you have a broadcasting degree? And I was like, no commentator at an indie lower than, you know, you're involved in that level has any kind of degree. And obviously they don't look for it.
I mean, go ahead. Well, I mean, at the same time, I mean, I have about 3 years of Creighton under my belt. I couldn't quite finish because my dad got sick around the last year I had to go, and I had to take care of him. But, I mean, even the stuff I learned in college, I mean, you need practical wrestling experience in order to even think about writing stories for it, because it is its own beast. And, I mean, it's like, you can write for television, and, I mean, it won't, like, necessarily fit 100%. I mean, like, formatting for scripts, I mean, it's like, what is the point? Because it's like, I mean, it is not, unless you're WWE, possibly Impact or Ring of Honor. I mean, I think it was Bob Evans that even told me, it's like, even WWE hardly uses scripts anymore, except for, like, the people that work best with it. And
yeah, and well, in this day and age, when so many of the independent workers rely on that a certain amount of control over their own character and their own storylines, it's really hard to come in as a third party and be like, I have this.
Absolutely. And yet, I mean, it's like, then you, I mean, it's true that there are managers out there that can cover for people that don't have a lot of mic skills. But at the same time, I feel like if the concept, not necessarily like a third party dictating what to say, but rather like a symbiotic relationship with, is like, okay, it's like, I mean, like, I would also almost call it a sandbox script. I mean, it's like, okay, this is the topic, this is the date, this is where you're fighting, and these are a couple of storyline reasons that you might be doing something, and so it's like, have at it. And, I mean, just to have, like a little bit of direction, I mean, could help, I mean, some of the people that are still working on having the art of the gab. I mean,
definitely. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because, I mean, we have, I mean, very talented, I mean, trainees over at the 3XW Academy. And, I mean, you need to be good at improv acting, period, in order to be able to, like, spout out, like, spat out, like, I'm going to do this to you at this time, and you're not going to like it, and you're ugly and you wear pink. How do I put this? Because I had the theater degree, yes, it's absolutely helped, and I've had a lot of teaching in improv acting and stuff like that. But, even from what I learned at Creighton in theater about improv acting, yes, some of it applies to pro wrestling, but pro wrestling also has its own rhythms, its own, like, this is what you do during a promo, because a lot of the filming things in a promo, you break a lot of the movie standards that, like, in the movies, you are never supposed to look at the camera. Promos, you are required to look at the camera.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. If only we had, like, the nuances of professional wrestling and what applies and what doesn't in these other disciplines that add to it, I think that could really help the industry as a whole.
Definitely. Now, going back, I just realized, I usually, when I interview someone that hasn't gotten a lot of interviews, I don't do this for someone who's maybe been around a lot, but let's go not way back, but back. How did you get the love for wrestling in the first place? Where did the love start before you jumped into the behind the scenes work?
The love of wrestling. In all honesty, it started out of the hate of people, and I hate to admit it like that, because it was The Undertaker that actually made me not only want to be a wrestler, but I wanted to grow up just to be like him, because all of the bullies at school that I hated started crying because he destroyed Hulk Hogan. And even though it started with hate, it just slowly became love. And just seeing all of these powerful people, like, performing and going through things that I kind of was. And just that empathy with people having these over-the-top issues. It's kind of like the same reason some people watch soap operas, I think, because it's like, oh, God, at least my life's not like that. I got to keep watching. Watching them. Pardon me. It's like, having your own family turn against you, crap like that, like people injuring themselves for the championship, politics. It's like, thank God that your life is not actually like that. And it's a wonderful feeling. It's kind of a backhanded way of looking at it, but just having that outlet, I think, is a major drive to a reason why a lot of people like wrestling, because, especially, like, in the Attitude Era with the Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon issues, who does not at one point hate their boss? And just the cathartic feeling of this, like, yes, I need somebody that can actually talk against somebody I don't like, and it's just that, yes, here it can happen. But, when I finally got in, I was, a little bit on the naive side, because I didn't realize that the wrestling industry is about making money. And rather than performing in order to write stories, it's like you have to make sure that you can bring in the crowd and not just, like, have the pleasure of telling them off because you're a heel. The process of going from mark to wrestler once you first break in can be extraordinarily painful, because, what you love becomes your job. And if it becomes too much of a job, then it kind of crushes you.
I've definitely, going off of what you say about being careful, being a marketing, getting into it. It's actually kind of a thing I always try to guess, I guess, because, and we've talked about this before, I've done work with 3S, but I also do, I guess you could call my home promotion, if I have one, is SCW. And SCW is the home of a lot of the Black and Brave kids, and they've done a lot of work with 3X, but because it's connected and there's all these fans at the SCW shows, the Black and Brave kids, I'll always see those kids that, like, decide that they're going to start training, and I look at them and I'm like, oh, you don't know what this is going to be. Like, the way they speak about training and the way they, just how you can tell what they think training is going to be, what they think their life is going to be post-training. It's painfully obvious, and I never have the heart to tell them. I never want to discourage them, but, like, being on the other side, it's really something you have to do out of love. It's not something you can do for fame or, you know, any of that. The majority of people that go on the indies and do that will likely never see WWE. Like 90% of the guys in the indies will probably never see WWE aside from jobbing or what have you. And they're lucky if they even see like the likes of AAW or Evolve or, you know, that whole set. So have you had many struggles with discouragement? I know you've had health issues, but have there been any serious moments of the business itself rearing its ugly head and making you question things?
Not necessarily. I mean, well, because I have schizoaffective bipolar disorder, which, they didn't diagnose it as that at first for some reason, because, I mean, they kind of said, oh, you're depressed, let's take more meds, and those meds didn't work. And I kind of had to rely on metacognition and basically tricking my mind into thinking a certain way. And that lasted until about 2015. And then I had to go on official disability. And you also have to keep in mind, okay, granted that DDP and Boogeyman were older than I was and still broke into the business and did halfway decently for themselves. Well, DDP more than Boogeyman, of course. I am 36 years old, going on 37 in December. So, I mean, I'm 275 pounds. When I first started, I was in the 287-ish range, but, I mean, at the same time, I kind of given up on being healthy, period. So, in all reality, even though, I mean, it's a discouragement to me for my health that I may or may not still be able to, like, wrestle, and I'm still kind of in the middle because I just want to make sure that my head's going to be okay. However, the drive to actually find out is getting me in the best shape that I've been in the last 3 to 5 years. So, in this case, the discouragement, even though it's there, kind of ignites the stubborn, family show, I can't cuss, stubborn punk within me. But, I mean, and even it's not just the health thing. I mean, what's discouraging, especially to other trainees and stuff like that, is, I mean, the fact that you have things that are not necessarily taught to you that you really should know about. Like, even though you don't make a lot of money in this business, how do you do your taxes and present yourself? Social nuances. How do you present yourself on social media? I mean, especially with the evolution in the past 10 years, 10 or 15 years that I've been wrestling. I mean, well, not necessarily wrestling, but just the fact that technology has evolved, because, I mean, it's like I didn't really have a smartphone when I started wrestling and whatnot. I mean, it's like, maybe MySpace was around, but none of the wrestlers really, like, used it hardcore. I mean, you don't really learn that sort of thing other than trials and error. I mean, even from some of the more dedicated veterans. So, I mean, it's an entire learning process with the information age.
I'm intrigued, which side of the debate do you fall on of should a wrestler's social media, or essentially Twitter in this point, should it be a total workers account where it's all in character? Should it be all real life coming from the person behind the mask? Or is it okay to mix the two?
You know who's the mistress of using social media as kayfabe? Rosemary. And her fans love it. If anyone wants to know how to market their gimmick and entertain and interact with the fans in total kayfabe and get away with it on social media, please watch Rosemary. Because, I mean, here's the thing, you have to be able to get away with it and be able to differentiate yourself from your gimmick. If you don't have that deep of a gimmick where you can completely lose yourself and be an entirely different person, then, I mean, have a different account maybe, but don't go hyper interactive like Rosemary does, because, I mean, it does take a modicum of separation in order to pull that off correctly.
Definitely. All right, so we've doing this for a hot minute, and we haven't even gotten into what we originally were going to talk about. Great insights. I'm really intrigued and impressed at your endurance and perseverance in fighting so many different health battles to get back to the ring. But originally, you and I, when we started talking about something entirely different. And that was essentially fan fiction.
Yes.
Now, we've done an entire episode dedicated to fan fiction on Bells, and we'll probably come back to it. My friend Justine Pasta Salsa, we're making plans. She's going to bring back her original fiction for wrestling. But yours, I think yours is a bit different, if I recall, correct? Like, you don't do what a lot of people think of as fan fiction. You don't just throw two celebrities into a bed for a sex scene. No. You get a little bit more in depth. So explain, what's your fan fiction style of writing?
Well, back when I was younger, like late high school, I had this friend who was, it was college. I mean, I met her in college, and I introduced her to professional wrestling, and she would not stop bugging me to write a smut fiction about Kane. And this is the only time I ever wrote a smut fiction. And it was a joke. And it was a joke. Basically, to make a long story short, I left it at a cliffhanger and made the page, make it look like that there was one more page to where she could find the conclusion of the story, and it was broken on purpose. She never begged me to write fan fiction after that. But outside of that, back in the days, they had these, it was play-by-post RPGs. I mean,
oh, I love those.
Okay.
I am a fan of those, I'll admit that. I still do that.
They're dying breed these days, though. I mean, basically...
just a quick heads up. For anyone that doesn't know, because I still do it, it is a dying breed. Essentially, it is a story you put together with many other people, in that you each control the one character that you've created. So the original creator will have a setting and a theme, and everyone creates characters for it that you write out what they're doing. So essentially it is what you do in like LARPing or Dungeons and Dragons written out is the best way I can think of. If your DM is the OP of the play-by-post role play, and each of you have your own characters and you're writing out what you do. Would you agree with that? That it's fairly similar to like the same style of a Dungeons and Dragons, but written out. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started, showing you how old I am again, they were the play-by emails. And they would have to, like, make entire, like, little groups on, like, either Yahoo and stuff like that in order to post their stories. But, I mean, some of these play-by posts were e-feds. And, I mean, most of my, work in fan fiction was with, playing characters that people needed or wanted. I was good at playing The Undertaker. I was good at playing Sting. And then, basically in my high school years, I think I was still in contact with them during the American Badass Undertaker era. But, yes, I was a member of the Brides of Cain / the Brides of the Undertaker, who were one of the most notorious fanfiction circles for being a little bit over-obsessive and even though they were over-obsessive, I mean, they had quality fiction. Yes, a lot of them were smut. Some of them were very good adventure, trying to make heads or tails of what they were going to do with the Ministry of Darkness next. They had, the leader of the Brides of Cain had this newsletter that was mailed to everybody, and I don't know how she got away with this. Her fan fiction was of the 1600s version of The Undertaker that was a vampire who, every time the sun would come up, he would turn into ashes and rise again as the Phoenix. And every month, I mean, she would mail another chapter to the Brides of the Undertaker, and this character was named Candle. And even when she totally doodled Candle and stuff like that, and Candle had his own freaking following in this group. And we're talking at least maybe 25 to 30 females that were, like, really freaking into this OC version of The Undertaker. But when I say OC, it's original character, and yet it's still The Undertaker because she still put it in the same time continuum.
Right.
But and then, one day, because, I mean, it was around, now, this was like at the later years of the, thing, this was slightly after the Ministry of Darkness, and we didn't know what to do with ourselves because The Undertaker was gone. And, I suggested, hey, let's start a play-by post involving not only the comic book characters from the Undertaker comic book, but...
There was an Undertaker comic book?
Oh,
I really shouldn't be surprised by that, but...
There was an Undertaker comic book series, and I believe in number 3, my pen name at that time was Raven Poe, Reivyn Poe, and I actually got one of my comments into the comic book, asking questions of the editor.
That's cool.
That is cool. And I actually tried to order. I think it was number 3. I would have to look it up again. It's just hard to find. Those issues are kind of hard to find. So, but I mean, yeah, the comic book had the embalmer. Kane had a half sister from Paul Bearer, who was out to kill Paul Bearer. Ticker is the ruler of Stygian and working for a higher power that never got defined because the comic book closed too early. Yeah, it was a fun trip. I mean, okay, it was better than the Warrior comic, but I digress. I have a long history in fan fiction, so I mean, I apologize if this is taking forever. But
not a problem.
Yeah, but we wrote this fan fiction, and I mean, we had so many players. We had like 15 to 20 players people with multiple characters, and then all of a sudden we were starting to become fangirls. We're like, okay, which one of us gets hooked up with which incarnation of the Undertaker? And at this point I was starting to shake my head, and it's like, okay.
Okay,
yeah,
just go back. All right, I need to focus on this for a second. So, Undertaker fan girls, essentially, each were, like, picking out which version or iteration of the character was, like, theirs.
Okay, alright. The plot of the RPG was that there were multiple Undertakers in a bloodline of reincarnation stuff going on. That way we could bring all of these different incarnations of the Undertaker, including Candle, and we made the Embalmer an incarnation of the Undertaker because he looked just like the damn Undertaker. We had Ministry of Darkness Undertaker. We had, and then we started to play around with, hey, what if some of the other wrestlers were actually bloodline descendants of these alternate versions of the Undertaker? So Stone Cold Steve Austin was a descendant of the Undertaker from an 1800s Civil War general.
My head hurts. A lot to take in.
The Rock, Peter Maivia is the descendant of an ancient Mayan incarnation of the Undertaker. And
what was that one called?
Oh God. I
just want to know what
how he described it was Peter Maivia coming back from the grave in a vision to The Rock, explaining that our ancestors were, before the conquistadors came to take us down, we had one last chance, and it didn't happen. But it was just convoluted. But through South American / Samoan roots, somehow The Rock got as a descendant of one of the Undertaker's bloodlines in there. Midian was actually a key character that I actually played because I wish they would have done more with the whole eye thing and made him, foresee the future and stuff like that. But, we basically got all of us, for some godforsaken reason, at the same show, and we got set back in time into Candle's area to where the most prominent and powerful of the Undertaker's incarnations was set so that we could learn more about the past. And then we all get shot into the future shot back into modern day again. It was so freaking convoluted because we had so many freaking players.
I'm glad you realized that.
So many players playing multiple characters because we had nothing to do with ourselves until the American Badass came back. And then everybody quit because he was a biker.
What about you? Did you stick through the biker days?
Huh?
Did you stick through? Did you stick through and stick with it through the biker days?
See, I wasn't that bad. I didn't stop watching wrestling because The Undertaker turned into a biker. I stopped watching wrestling because it's like the story started disappearing. And that was around that time, at least in my opinion.
Around what time? Can you give me like a...
I think it was about 2000... Ironically, about midway through my very first wrestling run. It just started, kind of breaking my heart. That, the stories weren't as convoluted or, as epic as, Sting and Starrcade or, I just felt like it turned off at that point. And, I wanted to basically do my best to write my own character and try bringing story back, but then in 2005 I started having the weird stuff and then I stopped. But, just to let everybody know who's listening in on this, yes, fanfiction gets this convoluted. Okay, imagine Marvel Comics and all of their alternate universes and how some people are able to keep up with that. It's the same thing because every fan fiction is an alternate universe in some shape or form. So, I mean, if that makes sense.
I've never looked at it that way.
Mm. Well, I mean, then you have the indie scene. And now I'm starting to get into what I'm currently working on. The indie scene is where you have a bunch of territories using the same pool of workers. However, almost every promotion is its own alternate universe. So the storylines in one Fed is not going to match up with the other Fed unless the Feds occasionally work together. Like, for instance, I know CW and 3WX recognize each other's titles. So, I mean, in some fashion or form, they're in the same continuity. But not all promotions do that. And yet they use the same characters. So I, as an indie fanfic writer, have to choose, okay, what are the aligning facts from all of these universes that make this character this character? And the first fanfiction, indie fanfiction that I actually sat down and wrote was Willie Sweet. Partially because his character is the most streamlined throughout the territories that, I mean, it's easy to write for that character because the character does not change for the most part.
Maybe quick heads up, because I don't think I've really talked about Willie Sweet all that much on Bells, and dude's even thrown a half-eaten gummy worm at me at that one show. Yeah, it's a great moment. Willie Sweet looks like if Willy Wonka had a love child with an Oompa Loompa. That's the best way I can think of.
Okay, well, okay, for those of you who, if there are people
it's
out
that
there
creepy.
actually, yeah, if there is actually people that do creepypasta, he is a hybrid of a Willy Wonka, Oompa Loompa, and Jeff the Killer. He has Jeff's smile.
Oh, yeah.
He has Jeff's smile. He has his, like, that killer temperament, and he also, it's like, his theme music is even almost the same as Jeff's. And I don't think he even realized that. When I mentioned it to him, he's like, Jeff who? And it's like, yeah. But I mean, he's
creepy, he's covered in face paint, and he throws half-eaten candy at people.
Yes. And
so that's who she's writing about.
How I actually started talking to him was, his entrance is one of the better ones in the indies. I mean, even if you don't have a lot of lighting to bring him around, just the fact that his charisma is able to, he comes out to Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams, and stalks little kids, yells at them, drools. I mean, it's like they give him 2 minutes almost every entrance just to work the crowd because he's that damn good. And I kept watching him and becoming a fan of him, and one day when I saw him take this ring pop on his finger, and he did it like once before, but it's like I didn't know that was a constant thing, and he basically beat hype at one of Blade's promotions and using a sucker punch, if you would. And then
sucker punch. A punch with a sucker on his finger. Oh, God.
Yes. But, I mean, I actually posted online with him in my friends list. It's like, you know what? I want to know what this guy actually uses in a hardcore match. And then I had one of my Manic episodes shortly after that, and I spent about a 30 to 35 hour waking period trying to come up with possible weapons for Willie to use in a hardcore match. And I was dead set on trying to figure out how to use a bottle rocket, a Coke and Mentos bottle rocket safely. And until I finally figured out, you know what, the only way I can shoot that thing is up, so that's not going to work. But one of the things I had mentioned was a licorice Garrett. And, the licorice, it was people, basically took people with a licorice. And lo and behold, during the Candyland Nightmare match that he had with Purple, he started choking him with a licorice Garrett. And so I'm like, oh my god, he actually used my shit. And, sorry, I shouldn't have cussed. But, I actually texted him through Facebook and it's like, have you ever thought of eating crickets and dripping it from your maw? And then we started talking about gimmick stuff. One thing led to another, and then I started writing for him. And to this day, we've been doing creative projects. Even though sometimes he uses my stuff, sometimes he doesn't, but it's just like, we have this really cool business relationship, all because I started writing fan fiction and became a fan of him. So, writing can lead to very awesome business opportunities.
It's great to hear. So, the one thing that I've noticed that you're talking and that I've heard you talk about before is that it's very, your fan fiction tends to be very, genre specific. It's not literally a case of, these two guys are backstage at the Performance Center, contemporary fiction. You write genre, like you did with, all the, like a jillion versions of Undertaker. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that. So why that? Why do you write fan fiction that is so outside the realm of the contemporary?
Well, especially with the dawn of creepypasta, I looked at Willie and looked at that genre of fan fiction, and I'm like, why have these two not met? Was one of the other fan fictions that I was going to write. I actually still have bits and pieces of it. It was called The 10-Minute Truce, where I kind of wanted to write promos for, PWP and other promotions, and I kind of turned them into fan fiction because I didn't have my camera at the time. But, it's basically, it's one of those, these guys walk into a bar, hilarity ensues type of thing. But, Purple and, Dalton Lee Ross, are in an old, karaoke bar that they used to hang out in when they were tag team partners. And Axel had won his championship match beforehand, and he basically pays off the DJ and hijacks the karaoke bar for 3 hours straight. And Purple's trying to save everybody, but at the same time, he just can't go up and attack him because this isn't the ring. And so he's like, shoot. It's like, goes to Dalton, is like, hey, Dalton, can you, I know we have problems, but you're going to have to put up with this for 3 hours. Dalton's like, man, I can leave here any time if it gets annoying. It's like, hey, everybody else is going to have problems, so why not? And then the next song Axel sings is Kiss, off key. And Dalton kind of okay, you messed with Kiss. Kind of takes a timer on his phone, is like, okay, you have 10 minutes. What's your plan? Hilarity. So that was one of the side fan fiction. I actually asked permission to all the wrestlers involved and if I can do that, and which I think is a bit of a touch some fan fiction writers need, because I don't know if a lot of pro wrestlers actually know about the Society of Fan Fiction, and I'm not sure if a lot of the pro wrestlers in the WWE or on Impact would be comfortable to know what kind of literature is actually out there about them. So,
well, I think a lot of them are aware of the concept in general, but I do think it gets wrapped up in it's all sexual gratification, girls are
Right.
gonna imagine two dudes sleazing together level. And there is that with a lot of what Kat writes, the episode we did. Although hers tends to be a little bit more broad than just like it's full relationships. But there's definitely a lot of fan fiction that is just love of the characters, is just love of what have you. And I think that gets overlooked a lot, gets lumped in when in reality, maybe you want to see what The Undertaker is like in the 1600s, which honestly is kind of a fun idea.
It was. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed her work. I mean, there was almost no romance in the original Candle story, other than the one that he had. I mean, his lover had killed herself after he died, and that's one of the reasons he got cursed. So, but other than that, I mean, there was no smut in that story whatsoever. So,
definitely, it is something that I struggle with, the whole idea of people writing off fan fiction, LOL, writing off, because of how some other people take it.
yes.
But we've got about, not too much time left here. So why don't you, I know we talked about, a couple pieces prepared. I don't know if they're full pieces or excerpts, but even if you just want to read a little bit of one to give the listener an idea of what you write, or a taste of the kind of fiction you write.
Okay. I think I'm gonna do the one I did on Lily Sweet because he actually approved. I had been sending him the edits, and he currently approves of the story, and yet I'm not quite finished enough for it to post yet. So since I know I have his approval, I think I'll go ahead and start with the beginning of that creepypasta. Now, this is my first creepypasta, so I had to do a little bit of research on what makes a good one, what makes a bad one, and stuff like that, and I think I have something halfway decent. I was told by somebody who likes creepypasta that the only complaint that they had is that the character speaking, because it's in first person, is not as enjoyable as others. But Willie was awesome. So, alright. This is basically a prequel to the Candyman Willie Sweet. What he was doing before he was a wrestler, he was not necessarily a serial killer, but I think serial torturer would be more along those lines. Let's see. Okay. I haven't read my work in forever. Alright. Where are you? Get over here. There you go. He said that he doesn't kill people. I never thought that it would be the worst threat I ever heard. Look, I know you don't believe me. Nobody ever believes me. I've been in here for over 3 years. If you really want to hear my story, please, just hear me out. A part of me doesn't miss all of the bull I missed from being in high school, but I would have put up with all of those trolls in a heartbeat if I would have just known the truth. What truth? That Candy Creep Willie is real. Don't give me that look. You don't even know my name, do you? What's the matter? My prison number isn't tattooed to my arm? Fine. It's Cassidy. I know you're just another researcher, but talking to anybody is a break. I've been stuck in solitary for so long. Maybe if I talk to enough people, I might just get put back with the others. Even if it's just hearing them scream when they flip out, it's better than being holed up in here alone. The beginning, huh? My beginning or his beginning? Well, here's both. I was a junior in high school. My family had been Irish Protestants since they came before America, and that also means they were pretty loaded. Trust me, it's not what it's cracked up to be. When you actually reach society and realize that people have a little thing called respect because of what their parents did, you thirst for it. You never find it, though. Dad always complained about how bad he wanted a son for football, but as long as I was the best at something, he'd leave me alone. You know those tiger bombs that some Asian families had? My dad was hardcore Irish. He made those tigers piss their fur. My best friend was Nancy, though. I wasn't the most popular girl in school, but I was the one that everyone went to when it came to tutoring. I had a thing for putting things into layman's terms. I actually met Leon Kidd my sophomore year when he had problems trying to memorize dates for history class. He was a year ahead of me, but he was the main theater guy in all the school plays. We really hit it off and started dating. Nancy? She was one of the popular girls. I got her through algebra with a C+, and she introduced me to the cool crowd. I was okay with it, but I was kind of stupid. I was kind of a gopher to most of them. It was going to be me and Leon on our first anniversary. I baked some of the most awesome chocolate chip cookies for him. Trust me, these things were loaded. And there was Leon and Nancy, getting it on with one another. I shouted at them, and Nancy just stepped away from him like nothing serious happened. Apparently, she'd only become friends with me just to sleep with him. Leon, he was laughing at me. I threw the first punch. Leon threw the last. Both of them stomped on me until I was out. I woke up in the nurse's office with the principal talking to my mom in the next room. Leon had posted photos of me and put it on the internet. The entire school was shaming me. My mom blamed me for being wild, but I deserved everything, and I wasn't a good girl. It was my fault with hooking up with bad people. It was a nightmare. When that thought crossed my mind, I remembered the story of one of Leon's theater friends had told me about Candy Creek Lily. I thought it was one of those stupid stories about a horrific monster that if you summon, if you do something dumb and say their name in front of a mirror enough times. There wasn't a mirror involved. I seriously wanted to die. I didn't remember his whole story, but for some reason I wanted him to be real. Any nightmare was better than this. I didn't care how much he tortured me. If anyone knew how to kill me, it would be a freak like Candy Creek Lily. I went running, and I tried to remember the rest of the story. I remembered that he only stalked the streets when it was about to rain, and his usual haunt was the candy store on Jackson Street. I could have gotten there by taking the bus, but it was just too hard to think. I felt like my life was already over. It was kind of humid, but not so hot that it took over everything. It wasn't twilight, but it was getting dark and overcast. Maybe today would be my lucky day? The street lights came on, and they ended up being the strongest light at the end of the entrance to the alley. I walked to the dumpster and sat down, wrapping my arms around my knees. I couldn't even whimper, but I breathed deep. It was tears for sure. One fell down on my cheek and landed on my knee with a black smudge. I don't think I was sobbing, but I was just there when I heard the noise. God, you'd never think that you'd ever call a music box a noise, right? I don't even remember the tune, but after that, there was a crunching sound from across from me. I looked up, and on the brick wall across from me, there was orange chalk all over the brick wall. Welcome to Candyland. There we go.
Ooh, that was good. I like that.
I had to do this. Like, I realized I was going too long, and so I skipped like unnecessary paragraphs because I'm a whore when it comes to painting a picture of a scene. But
I think that's the thing I loved the most is the fact that he's not the protagonist, he's the monster.
Yes.
That, in that same kind of creepypasta vibe. And so you said this is a prequel, so there's like,
Yeah, he's already dead.
So he does make an appearance later on?
He not as a he makes an he actually shows up shortly after this. But he toys with her first.
Naturally.
So
it doesn't count if he doesn't. Yeah, that was awesome. Whenever we get back to doing like a full dedicated to fan fiction episode, I'll have to have like you and Justine so we can have just all the full weirdness of maybe non-sexual fan fiction. We'll go the other route since we already did the more smuttier stuff with Kat. But I'd love to keep going, but I running out of time, new job and all this. We recording this for anyone listening. The universe was against this being recorded. I swear we're fighting the universe right now. The amount of struggling to find time and not having a place, and recording stuff was happening on me again, and it's like we're fighting fate, I swear. So I'm really glad we got this done. Really glad. I always love having new people on the podcast. So why don't you tell the good people where to find you?
What I do? I'm currently trying to. My mom and I owned Creative Generations since about 2014. We never really, because we've been trying to get gigs both in voice acting and in movies and in writing and in script writing, and I just got back to my Photoshop and my movie creating skills in order to create some really cool stuff. But now that I'm actually working with 3XW, I might be able to actually take my creative business off and do multiple things for different projects and stuff like that. So just a general creative studio. I don't have any other explanation other than that because I dip my finger into a lot of pies and weave them together into something cool. So.
Awesome. Do you want to give your social medias?
My social media, okay. I don't have one for the business yet because I've been trying to get my Google name to change, but you can only change your name every 90 days, and for some godforsaken reason, I still can't get it to change. But here it is. Oh, Twitter. What's my Twitter? I'm such a twit. Okay, it's currently twitter.com at VILECHYLDE. That is my personal Twitter. My Facebook. I've changed them a lot in the last half year or so I did change it back to, it's facebook.com/VILECHYLDE. That is my personal Facebook. I will have a business thing up eventually. It's just that I need to get a logo and we need to make ourselves, since we're actually starting to get projects, I mean, we need to take our business end a little bit more seriously before we dive into anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
No, I get it. And I'm excited to see where your business goes.
Oh, yes.
It's got to be a little terrifying starting something new, right?
Oh, yes. Well, I've been trying to do a Willy vignette for over a year because the location has been eluding us since last year, but we finally got the bloody thing taped, and it should be out by Halloween. So that is going to be my first Creative Generations official project. So yay.
Awesome. I'll be on the lookout. So like she mentioned before, you can find her at VileChild, spelled VILECHYLD, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
You can follow Bells at Bells in a Cell on Twitter. We do not have an Instagram because I am the one that mans the Slam Fam Wrestling Instagram, so you can check them out at Slam Fam Wrestling. I just posted a ton of videos from the Latino Heritage Festival for 3XW. Be sure to also follow Slam Fam Rest, WREST, on Twitter as well. And until then, we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Peace, love, and pancakes.